The Japanese economy shrank more than expected in the third quarter, partly because of hurdles it faced during the Tokyo Olympic Games. The world's third largest economy saw its GDP shrink 3% year-on-year in the 3 months to September. The quarter-on-quarter contraction was 0.8%. Consumer spending slumped as authorities put large parts of the country under a state of emergency to keep COVID-19 infections at bay. As a result, Japan missed out on a bump in activity during the Olympics, with domestic and international spectators locked out of the two-week event. The country also took a hit from supply chain bottlenecks that have choked other major economies. Japanese car makers and electronics manufacturers were forced to cut production due to a shortage of semiconductor chips. Exports fell more than 2% during the quarter. Now, for more, let's go to Seijiro Takeshita. He's a professor of management and information at the University of Shizuoka. Welcome to the program, Professor. Now, Japan falling back to a contraction after a modest expansion in the previous quarter. Is Japan at risk of falling into a recession, which, as we know, is 2 quarters of economic contraction?
No, I really don't think so because, well, the private consumption, which is the biggest component of the GDP, is likely to do fairly well on back of what we call the revenge demand. But actually, it's what we normally call the pent-up demand that is basically being spent. But that is under the assumption that the COVID-19 will continue to simmer down. Yesterday in Tokyo, we only had 22 contraction of COVID-19, which tells you that things are simmering down. But we know, as you just reported earlier, what's happening in Europe and the rest of the world. So obviously, we don't have our guards down yet. But that said, we have a problem, particularly in capital expenditure side, because of the procurement problem that we're facing, particularly in the semiconductor side, and the weakening of the yen, along with the rise of oil price, certainly dampens the appetite for the corporations to go further with the capital expenditure.
Now, Japan under new management now, a new government being elected just last week. Can you tell us what they plan to do to give economic activity a bump?
What he's trying to do first and most of all is to equalize the inequality that was created, especially during the COVID-19. But it's easier said than done because that's basically talking about taxing the richer segment of the economy and the population. And it didn't fare well when he announced more of a concrete measures. The market fell quite sharply. And then suddenly, Mr. Kishida had to really muffle down. So obviously, the emergency measures that needs to be taken is to basically continue to support the service sector, which have been hit really badly during the COVID-19. And there will be more supplementary budget that will be announced in regards to this issue. But that said, again, the problem is that we are the most heavily indebted nation in the world, and considering the demographics of, very low birth rates, etc., it's very, very difficult to get the, consensus or agreement to continuously keep spending like as suggested.
Professor Takeshita from the University of Shizuoka in Japan, thank you for the analysis.